My nephew is once again sleeping in the next room, so I have to kind of be quiet. Anyway, Bring Her Back is a 2025 supernatural horror film directed by Danny and Michael Filippo. I'm still not sure if I'm saying their names right. Sorry if I'm not. Anyway, it was their second directed feature after Talk to Me. Now, as you all may know, I love Talk to Me, so I obviously had high expectations for this film. It stars Sally Hawkins, Bill Barrett, Sora Wong, and Misha Haywood. I've been looking forward to talking about the film, so let's not waste any more time. The premise of Bring Her Back revolves around two step-siblings named Andy and Piper, played by Billy Barrett and Sora Wong, who are sent to a foster home after their dad had a fatal accident in the shower. Once they get there, they meet Laura, played by Sally Hawkins, a former counselor who seems to be a bit on the crazy side, but still very welcoming. This is also when they meet a young mute boy named Oliver, played by Jonah Run Phillips. Everything seems somewhat fine at first, until Andy starts to notice some very off-putting behavior from both Laura and Oliver. It is soon revealed that Laura had a daughter named Kathy at one point who sadly drowned in the pool. So, because of this, she's willing to go to extreme lengths to hear her daughter one last time, which ultimately puts Andy and Piper in extreme danger. When I first read of this premise, I knew I was going to be in for a very unnerving tearjerker, and I was more than right. This premise had such a somber execution that you could feel an overwhelming sense of dread as it all played out. I mean, this is a story of a woman who is so grief-stricken about losing her daughter that she is willing to go to extreme lengths just to hear her voice again. And part of the horror comes from just how depressing that is to think about. Because just imagine if you yourself lost someone so near and dear to you. You know there would be no chance of seeing them again, but given how hard and final loss truly is, I feel like if people had the opportunity to see the ones they lost again, they would do it. Even if they had to take risky steps in order to do it. I give premise an A+. Very powerful. Next is acting, which I also was honestly impressed by. This had to be such an emotionally draining film for the cast, but yet they nailed these roles immensely. Almost to the point of being overwhelming. One person in particular I definitely have to give credit to is Sally Hawkins. I can definitely see why people loved her so much in this film, because her performance is up there with Toni Collette's in Hereditary. Like with that film, she nailed the task of having to seem like she was slowly losing it in a very disturbing way, while also adding a side to her performance that makes you feel somewhat, sorry for her. Like, kind of like empathize with her. I also have to give kudos to Sora Wong for having terror that felt so real in some areas that I actually legit felt bad for her and was scared for her safety. I give acting an A+. Bottom line, I hope to see these people in more films soon. All of them. Now, this is a very dark and gloomy film, and the cinematography in this film more than demonstrates that. The lighting was dimmed just enough so that the somberness of the film would just resonate through the screen. I do not remember one instance of this film where any kind of light was shown whatsoever. I give cinematography an A. Great job to Aaron Mikliski. Because a lot of it was practical, there were so many instances in this film where I would wonder to myself, how do they do that when it came to the special effects? There were some moments in the film that literally had my mouth hanging in shock and wincing in revolt simply due to how amazing the effects were. I mean, there's one scene where a character is chewing on a knife and later their own flesh, and even a wooden countertop. There was such an authenticity to these scenes that my teeth actually felt sore after seeing them. The effects were so good that it was genuinely chilling to see them used. I give special effects an A-. Very realistic in a shocking, yet somewhat gruesome way. As mentioned before, this is Danny Michael's second directed feature, and as much as I love Talk to Me, this was a huge step up. They took the elements that made that movie strong and upped it to 300 in this movie. While Talk to Me did have a few lighter moments, this movie barely left any breathing room, so the constant dread almost became unbearable. It was clear the boys wanted to make something about how grief can affect someone in a very disheartening and even frightening way, and they more than showed that. Because as I said, Sally Hawkins' character is clearly not altogether there, but you can kind of feel for her due to the fact that this loss has had a very draining impact on her. They also did a great job when it came to keeping things discreet until the moment came to finally reveal everything. The whole time I was wondering what Oliver's deal was and why he behaved the way he did due to how increasingly disturbing his actions became, and I just had to know what Laura's plan was exactly. All of these aspects are part of what kept me glued to the screen and kept me in constant anticipation. I give directing an A+. Danny and Michael are definitely more than deserving of being mentioned, having their names mentioned in the same breath as other great horror directors today, such as Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, Jennifer Kent, Robert Eggers, and Zach Cregger. Overall, Bring Her Back is a very disheartening film to watch, which is also what makes it so good. The horror works because of how distressing it is and due to how real the characters all feel. The performances are very raw and unflinching. The story is so heartbreaking that it almost hurts how empty this film will leave you, and the direction was fantastic. I give Bring Her Back an A+. Definitely one of the most upsetting A24 films I've seen in a while, but I mean that in the best possible way. I also have to remind people that this film does deal with abuse in a very disturbing way. A lot of it is emotional and mental, but it still mentions and even shows in one instance physical abuse as well, so do be aware of that. And it was admittedly very uncomfortable to watch, but fantastic movie overall. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.